What's up, guys? We are back. Fitness Profit Multiplier, Anthony and Jimmy. Today, we're going to be discussing everything with freedom, and we're going to show you how to have true freedom in your business. And what does that mean, right? And I guess I'll tell a little bit of story. When I was first working and first started out my business, I was always afraid, and the scenario always played in my mind is, what happens if I break my leg? Remember, I was doing one-on-one in the beginning. I was working most of the sessions, and I was always said to myself, what happens if, God forbid, I broke my leg? What is going to happen? I mean, and I'm a hard worker. I roll up my sleeves. I'm not afraid to work. I'd be in there with the wheelchair. But the point being, is that scale? Is that like true freedom, right? Like, I own a business. I own this job, but that's not the goal. The goal is to be able to, if God forbid somebody did break their leg and can't make it into the gym, the goal is for the gym to still be producing. That is true freedom. And we're going to talk to you about how to get that true freedom, to take that fear off the table for you. So if you have kids, you can go to your kids' sporting events. You can do extracurricular activities outside while the gym is actually still profiting and making you money on the outside. It's a beautiful thing when you reach true freedom in your business.
Yeah. And true freedom kind of comes down to a couple of different things, right? We're probably going to focus mostly today on what it takes within your staff and how to actually get these certain items off your plate so that you can find that freedom and you're not doing stuff in your business anymore. But it does come down to processes and systems. It does come down to having the right staff as well, right? It does come down to growth and revenue numbers, right? Because at a certain point, you have to have a certain amount of revenue, a certain amount of clients to actually be profitable, right? Because you could have this business that operates that you delegated everything out, but you're only making $1,000 a month off of it. It's like, is that really a good investment of your time or money to get that thing started? Or is that really good risk? Or is the risk that you're taking worth that $1,000 a month? Probably not, right? So, and even if you're doing that, it probably takes you some work to get that $1,000, right? It's not no work. So it really comes down, guys, to the classic word in business. It comes down to delegation, right? Delegating the tasks. And I will say, there was one quote from a guy that actually coached both Anthony and I a while back that I really like. And he says, delegate, don't abdicate. So when we start talking about delegation, this is not about just saying, oh, here's a task, take it, like not teaching somebody how to do it. This is about teaching somebody the ways of your processes and systems so that they know exactly how to do it. They can actually improve it and make it better. And then it gets it off your plate. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? Oh, it's easier for me to just do it. So many business owners say, it's easier for me to just do it. I do it better than my staff could, blah, 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 right? That's your ego talking, and that's going to keep you away from finding actual freedom. Because even if somebody does it 80% as good as you should probably give it to them anyway. And the likelihood is somebody on your staff is going to be doing the tasks that you currently do better than you, just for the sheer fact that you're doing too many different things, right? So I can't, I talk to gym owners that say, oh, well, I ask them, like, how many sessions are you training right now? What's your profit look like? What's this look like? Well, I train, 30 sessions a week. And I'm like, why? Oh, because I've tried to give it to trainers before and they're just not as good as me. The clients don't like them as much as me, and da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, you're going to be stuck having a business that doesn't scale for the rest of your life if that's your attitude, right? And that's just the long and short of it. So we'll talk a little bit more about delegation, but that's generally what we're getting into today.
Yeah, I like this to basically explain delegation like this. And you have to do it correctly, because if you don't do it correctly, you're setting yourself up for failure. So the way I explain delegation is, if Jimmy came over my house and Jimmy was a guest at my house. And part of the rules of the house was, if you're going to stay here, you have to do certain things for me. And one of those things is you have to make the bet. So if I said, okay, Jimmy, if you're going to stay here, you're going to live here rent free, you have to make the bet. And then I just walk away. So now Jimmy goes and makes the bed. He puts the covers on the top and whatever. And he puts the pillow in the middle, and that's it. I come home and I get annoyed because I'm like, this bed is a mess. It's sloppy. It's not made. What did he do? This is ridiculous. I just told him to make the bed. But our definitions of making the bed are two different things. Jimmy thinks making the bed is pulling the covers up to a certain point, putting the pillow in the middle. For me, mine is tucking the covers underneath, putting the pillows on top, and then putting the throw pillow. I don't know, whatever it is, putting the throw pillow on the top. But if I don't define that task for Jimmy, he doesn't know what perfection it looks like or what I'm even looking for. So if we flip this into the gym scenario, if I told my staff, hey, go train that client, and the client's doing something that's not part of our program, I can't get mad at that trainer for doing that because I didn't outline exactly what you need to do that. So if you're going to delegate any task, it has to be outlined. Step one, walk into the gym, turn the lights on. Step two, turn the radio on. Step three, set the temperature to X. Step four, turn this on. It has to be outlined. And the way I like to build systems in my business and then be able to delegate it is I always think in the course of, can my 9-year-old daughter do this? So if I gave this piece of paper to my daughter and said, here, Gabriella, go and do this. Can she go, okay, step one, I open the door, I turn the light on. Okay, step two, I put the radio on, set the radio to the station. If she can follow those steps, anybody could do it. And that's the goal. So when you build out systems and processes around things, you have to think in those terms. Can somebody who's not part of a fitness industry run this playbook? And if they can, then it's safe for you to delegate to somebody else. So now if we use the same scenario I gave you before, where I wrote out a checklist for Jimmy and I said, here, Jimmy, if you want to stay here, this is the checklist on how you make the bed. Jimmy takes the checklist. Okay, takes the sheets off, pull the sheets all the way up. They have to be precisely 6 inches from the pillows or whatever the thing is, right? Now I come home and I say, okay, this looks good. Okay, it's only 5 inches from the pillow this time. So now I can have a conversation with Jimmy and say, hey, Jimmy, look, it says 6 inches here. This is only 5. So tomorrow, let's try to get 6. That's how you delegate properly, because without expectations, how do they know? And you can't blame them. It's only on yourself.
The setting of expectations is a great dovetail, right? And I love the bed analogy. Anthony does a really good job with that. So when you look at it from an expectations component, delegation is not getting pissed at your staff because they didn't read your mind, right? And sometimes that's difficult in the beginning as a business owner because you have a vision in your mind of how things should go and what the business should look like and how to execute the tasks and all these kinds of things. But it's about the expectation that is set. So if you don't set an expectation at all and somebody does something you don't like, then you have to have a conversation with them and saying, hey, look, this is the way we want it done here. I understand that I didn't set this expectation ahead of time, but this is the way I expect it to be done from here forward. Because if you don't have set expectations in the beginning, that's the way you have to do it. And there's going to be times in your business where you come up with a standard operating procedure that is in response to something that went wrong in your business, right? And then it just becomes part of the way that you guys operate, right? Something went wrong, whatever it may have been, and you go, okay, these are the standards we now operate by because I'm not having that happen to me again, right? And then you set those expectations right from the beginning, and it also helps you get your staff all on board with everything that you need to be doing for your business. I find that the best way to teach somebody the task, right? Like Anthony has this analogy and this way of holding them accountable to this checklist and looking at Gabriella as like an example of, okay, can I teach her? Is a 9-year-old going to be able to do this? And then how do you actually teach it to that person, right? What's the process that you go through? And the best process that we have found is you verbally explain how that task is going to be executed to that person. You have them then watch another person do it, right? So shadow another person do it. Once they're done shadowing that person, then you have them do the task while the other person watches them do the task. And then they can do the task on their own, right? So explain, shadow, then you do a quality check while they do it and you watch, or your manager watches, and then they're ready to do it on their own, right? And you have that process. And sometimes it's not that quick, like boom, 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 boom. But like with sales, for example, you always need to be kind of honing that skill, right? Sometimes with training clients, if they're new to training clients, you have to be honing that skill. But a lot of times an administrative task can be done that way pretty simply, where it's like, here's how we do it. Watch me do it. I watch you do it. You do it now. It's yours, right? Kind of a thing. So administrative tasks, cleaning the gym, things like that are easy to do that with. Sometimes the training models or sales are not quite that simple, where it's like you just do that. You have to constantly be working on that skill. But other than those two big things in your business, a lot of the administrative tasks can just be boom, 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 boom. But sales and training people still follows that same cadence. It's just you do this course correct. We're like, what went wrong here? How do we fix it? What went wrong here? How do we fix it? And you keep doing that over and over and over again to make sure that people are actually honed in on that process. And that's why we have sales trainings every week at our gym, right?
Yeah, that's also why we have trainer meetings as well. So we have a regular meeting, which is like the full gym meeting, and then we have a trainer meeting. And Jimmy mentioned it before, and he brought up a good point. It's like, well, what about those things like the actual training portion of it? You can't robotically train that, unfortunately. You can't make out a list of, okay, greet client, okay, go into exercise. You really can't make that checklist kind of a way with a training session because so many variables are into play. But what we do is we have our rules for a training session. And every week we drill down what those rules are. So we go over it again and again and again. And most of the time, when you want true freedom in your business, your job actually becomes the chief reminding officer. What are the rules of the training session? And even if they've heard it 100 times, there's still certain areas of it that we need to improve. So like, for example, one of our rules is always to greet members, introduce new members or any member to the person next to them. That's like one of the things that's part of our rules. And I do not a good job of that. I just kind of, sometimes I assume that they're there, or sometimes I introduce it and it's kind of awkward. So we talk about that. I always try to lead by example. And it's like, okay, I want to improve this one. What do you guys do to do this one better? And the trainers always like that because they kind of step up like, oh, okay, Anthony is having trouble with this. How can I help him with this? And even though I'm not really training the sessions, if I'm there, I should still be doing that technically. So, it's just reminding them what to do and going over it and going over it and going over the checklist and the checklist. But same thing, like you said, with sales. If you have a salesperson, listening to their calls, going through the role play, making sure their framework is correct. But that's all part of delegation. If you want true freedom in your business, having these systems to fall back on is going to be the key, And then just checking to make sure those systems are done. Every day I have a certain amount of things that I check off that I have to do, that I have to find out what's going on. So I do what I call a midday huddle every day for the trainers. So we do like just a quick text message that goes out. We have like a group text. So that's like, gives me the lifeblood of what's going on the training floor of it. Then for my manager, I have a checklist based on her checklist, just to text her and say, hey, did you do this today? Did this happen? Did this happen? Did this happen? Yes, yes, yes. It just gives me quick, but I know it's done. I know it's getting done. And it's just a way for me to reinforce it. But those two text messages I send out, one to my operating person and one to my staff, allows me to make sure that the job is actually getting done every day. And it gives me more freedom to focus on things like this.
Yep. And that's how you find that actual freedom in your business, right? Anthony and I are, for the most part now, work from our houses, go into the gym here and there. I have the freedom now to coach high school wrestling this season. I spend 3 hours a day in a high school wrestling room because I've been able, and that during peak gym hours, like it's like 4 to 6 or 3 to 6, right? Those are sales hours. Those are peak training hours, right? but I'm not in my gym at all. And that's the freedom that you can enjoy when you delegate properly and you have these processes and systems to follow, right? Anthony has structured time with his family that he doesn't have to sacrifice because he put the sacrifices in the beginning to build the machine that allows him to do that. So I'm sure there's other things.
I would say that I will be honest.
Yeah.
Because even though I do have that freedom, it's very hard to step away, especially when you have goals and you want to hit certain things. So it's very hard to still step away. But it's nice to know that I don't have to do the ins and outs of the things. Like for one, training the client. I don't mind training sessions. Like I'll jump in if I have to. And I like training sessions. I like dealing with people and stuff, but it's like I don't want to be tied to that. I just don't want to be tied to that. So it's nice to have freedom from that. But as far as like having freedom completely from your business, I don't think that ever really happens. Especially if your aspirations is yes, exactly. Especially if your aspirations are to keep growing it beyond certain points. It's very hard to kind of step away from that. And I do kind of still struggle with that. So like, even though I don't have to do anything technically, I will still be, researching this. Like right now I'm taking a copywriting course. Like I bought a copywriting course because I just want to get better. I want to get better at it because I think it's going to improve like the website and this, that, and the other thing, my ad copy. Like I didn't have to do that, but because I have aspirations to keep growing this thing, I invest my time into things like that will give me a bigger return down the line. So this is the entrepreneurial journey, right? That's what it is. So guys, if you're interested in having us help you in any way, you can click that link below. You can either book a phone call with us where you can leave your credit card at home and just talk to us about the things that you're having trouble with in your business, or pick up a free training where we help you get new clients in your door with zero ad spend. So just click that link below. You'll find all that info, and you can even join us on Facebook in our private Facebook group. But till next time, Anthony and Jimmy, Fitness Profit Multiplier, we are out.